What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Tricky Jim at Full Grip Games. I've been participating in a 2017 Retro Format Tournament hosted by PokeStats. It's been a ton of fun to play, and we've been playing it on the Pokemon Trading Card Game online, and I've been recording my matches so that I could commentate over them and show them to you all here on YouTube. 2017 North American International Championships format is one of my favorite formats ever. It's Primal Clash through Guardians Rising, and this format in particular is very nostalgic for me since I was able to finish in the top 8 of that North American International Championships with one of my favorite decks ever, Drampa GX Zoroark. For those of you that don't remember, Guardians Rising means Tapu Lele GX was just released, but we still have many powerful cards from the X and Y block legal for that national championships. And the format, I feel like, was very skill intensive. The battles are very back and forth, and with the supporter N in the format, there's a lot of comeback potential, which you will see in the gameplay. Round 1, I play against Pablo Meza, a fellow YouTuber and a great guy. We have a very close set, and I can't wait to show it off to you. But before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the decks that exist in this Primal Clash through Guardians Rising format. Here on LimitlessTCG.com, you can see these are the results from that 2017 North American International Championship. Tord Reklev winning the whole thing with his Drampa GX Garbodor deck. Drampa was one of the best cards from this format, forming the backbone of a lot of decks. Its Righteous Edge attack could be used for just 1 energy, removing special energy from the defending Pokemon. Its Big Wheel GX could shuffle draw 10 cards for just 1 energy, 180 hit points, and its Berserk attack could deal 150 damage for just 3 energy if one of your bench Pokemon was damaged. And then with Choice Band, you could hit that magic number of 180, easily knocking out most Pokemon EX or GX in the format. So Drampa was a huge deal. In second place, we had John Kettler with his Decidueye GX Vileplume deck, Forest of Giant Plants, a stadium card that allows you to instantly evolve up your grass-type Pokemon without obeying the evolution rules, was legal for this tournament. So Decidueye GX Vileplume was a powerful deck that Pablo actually played in the first round. The Decidueye GX Vileplume deck evolves up Decidueyes and Vileplumes into play and operates under item lock, which makes it very challenging to play against. There was also versions of the deck, as we can see, Igor finished in the top 4 that did not play Vileplume. Decidueye Ninetales focused on using Alolan Ninetales GX and its Ice Blade attack to snipe, in combination with Decidueye GX's Feather Arrow ability to take out threats on the opponent's bench and just deal a ton of overwhelming snipe damage. Volcanion EX, also a very popular archetype in this era. And then we see some Greninja decks in the top 16. There was also some Tapu Bulu Vikavolt. Tapu Bulu GX Vikavolt, a fan favorite for sure. And then some Espeon GX Garbodor decks. Trashalanche Garbodor was a force to be reckoned with in this format, dealing 20 damage times the amount of item cards in your opponent's discard pile. So it's safe to say that Trashalanche Garbodor completely warped the format. We can see how many Trashalanche Garbodor decks there were in the top 16 of this event. And Trashalanche Garbodor, though powerful, was capable of being played around. You could, with some smart heads-up play around the card by making sure that you limit the amount of items in your own discard pile and therefore limiting your opponent's damage output, which is why I think that Drampa GX Garbodor was such a powerful deck for this tournament, because Drampa was capable of being aggressive early on and taking big knockouts, even if your opponent wasn't putting items in the discard pile, and then Garbodor was there to sweep up the scraps at the end of the game and deal huge numbers for just 1 energy. And that's about it for the format. There's also some Vespiquen decks that were really popular as well. Vespiquen was pretty heavily teched against for this North American International Championship. And other than that, that's basically the format. It's a lot of fun to play. Let's check out the gameplay between me and Pablo and see how that match ends up. Now, because of the new rules in the Pokemon Trading Card Game online, which prohibit the use of supporter cards on the first turn of the game going first, we have decided for this tournament that each player will just pass their first turn of the game so that their real first turn is the second turn of the game, which Basically makes it so that you can play turn 1 supporters going first, as you can see I'm doing here with my Drampa GX in the active. Turn 1 N. N is a fantastic supporter card and one of the most popular supporters in this format. So what ends up happening is that each player just starts with an 8 card hand instead of a 7 card hand, and you're able to play supporters on the first turn of the game. Since that was the spirit of the 2017 format, you could play supporters turn 1 going first. Now you still could not attack turn 1 going first, so I'm going to pass with my Drampa GX in the active position, and this is a fantastic board position for me. Now you'll notice that I played my Versus Seeker to bring the N back from the discard pile, since I know that Pablo is playing a item lock deck. Now his goal is going to be to get Forest of Giant Plants into play so that he can instantly spring his Rowlets into Decidueyes and his Oddish into a Vileplume. We see there he had a very underwhelming turn 1 though, which really plays to my advantage, and I'm very thankful to have another turn to get to play items. This is a stressful matchup for Drampa Zoroark, since items are very essential to the operation of this deck, and you can see me really kind of focusing like, how do I play this Ultra Ball? I don't want to discard supporter cards, since I know that I'm gonna want to actually find those copies of supporters every turn so I can continue drawing through my deck. But really, if I can just get a couple of Zoroarks into play, the rest is pretty gravy from there. I can just get Zoroark, put it onto the bench. Zoroark has an ability and a attack, Mind Jack. Mind Jack does 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. If there's one thing that I have going for me in this matchup, is that Pablo is going to be filling his bench, powering up my own Mind Jack attack with Zoroark. Zoroark is just a stage 1 Pokemon, so super easy to get into play. And as Pablo fills his bench, he's going to be powering up my Zoroark's Mind Jack attack. And what's really cool about this deck is that Zoroark has the stand-in ability. Stand-in makes it so that if Zoroark is on the bench, it can come into the active position instantly, which makes it so that I don't have to find any switch cards in order to switch between my Drampa and my Zoroark, which is very good against an item lock deck like we see that Pablo is playing. So you're going to see me use that stand-in ability quite a lot. Now, I've got a pretty good hand here off of the end. You can see I'm using my Ultra Ball, taking advantage of this good setup, getting myself a second Zoroark, going to play the Versus Seeker to get myself another N, and we can just Berserk this Rowlet for knockout. Now, Berserk does 80 damage plus 70 more if one of my benched Pokemon is damaged. You can see that I have that Team Magma's Secret Base in my hand, which is a stadium card, and it makes it so that anytime a player benches a Pokemon that does not have Team Magma's in its name, which is just about every single Pokemon, since this card was from a mini set of basically unplayable cards. So Team Magma Secret Base basically does 20 damage to any Pokemon when you play it from your hand to the bench. Now, the idea of this deck is to use Team Magma's Secret Base to damage your own Pokemon and power up your own Berserk attack. Now, you'll see that I don't actually bench my Team Magma's Secret Base against Pablo here, since Pablo's Decidueye GX can Feather Arrow and damage my Pokemon more. So I don't actually want to give Pablo any of these bonus damage counters on my Pokemon with Team Magma's Secret Base. So you'll see Pablo playing very carefully. Once he's able to finally get Decidueyes into play, he doesn't want to Feather Arrow my benched Pokemon, because that's going to power up my Drampa GX's Berserk attack and allow me to hit some very big numbers. Now, we're setting up very well here. Pablo finally gets a Decidueye GX into play, and it's going to use a second Shaman, which makes me really excited, because that means that my Zoroark's Mind Jack attack can now deal a base, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 160 damage, plus the Choice Band is dealing 190 damage for just a double colorless energy, which is insane damage output in this format. We can see if I'm able to find a double colorless this turn, Zoroark on my bench can use that stand-in ability and then Mind Jack this Tapu Lele GX for knockout. Now, I'm deliberating here. Am I going to play this Team Magma's Secret Base? We can see that Pablo was able to get a Grass Energy onto his Decidueye GX, as well as a Vileplume in play. So Item Lock is live. neither of us will be able to play item lock or play items for the remainder of the game, unless of course I play Hex Maniac. I can break that item lock with Hex Maniac, allow me to play some items, but that's a double-edged sword, because if I play Hex Maniac, I also give Pablo a turn to play his own items. So I think I'm going to decide against it and just decide to N instead. If I do find that double colorless energy off of the N, I'm going to be taking a knockout on this Tapu Lele GX. And we can see I was lucky enough to get that choice band down so that I can deal boosted damage with the Zoroark. This particular list plays 4 copies of choice band and is really aggressive in that way. We can see here, I decided to take a little bit of a gamble. I'm nervous about Pablo's Decidueyes dealing a lot of damage. So I go for the Hex Maniac and decide to go for a more conservative play to just Righteous Edge Pablo's Tapu Lele and hope that he's not able to find another double colorless energy. So since I did use Hex Maniac and I got another Hex back from the discard pile, I make it so that Pablo cannot use his Decidueye GX, but we can see that game plan just completely backfired for me. Not only did Pablo have another double colorless, he was able to find a Field Blower as well, something I didn't even think his deck would play. I guess it makes sense so that he can Field Blower, Garbodor, and then reinstate that item lock. So I think that Field Blower is probably for Garbodor, but I did not expect that. He was able to get rid of my choice band, and now I'm right back under item lock again. I do have a Darkness Energy so that I can Righteous Edge this Tapu Lele GX with my new Drampa and try to slow down the pace of this game. I play another Hex Maniac, and I'm just hoping, please, okay, now I've removed 2 double colorless energy. At this point, can we keep you from putting that pressure onto my Drampa GX and give me some turns to really establish myself? And we can kind of see the momentum of this game swinging. Now that Pablo has the item lock out and he's got these Decidueyes, I decided to go with the Hex route this game, just thinking, okay, maybe if I can Hex and remove some resources from Pablo's deck, I can maybe get the upper hand. But I think what I realized during this game 1 is that I need to just go on the full aggressive here against this deck and try to take as many prize cards as I can quickly. If I let Pablo get ahead like this, he's going to be able to skip ahead in some energy attachments and really build a heavy advantage for himself. I'm comfortable dropping this Zorua here because he's only got 2 Decidueyes in play and not 3. And then I think I am going to Tapu Lele GX maybe for... No, I decided to hold that. Yeah, we're just going to go for the N. I don't find an energy, so that's pretty crushing for me, but I do get a Zoroark Break, so I get to evolve that up. And Zoroark Break is a phenomenal card because it gives Zoroark a boost in hit points by 40, which is really important for this matchup. But then it also has the Foul Play attack. For 1 Darkness Energy, Zoroark Break can copy any of the defending Pokemon's attacks. So it's a really nice attack to be able to use against powerful Pokemon EX and GX. And unfortunately, it's not going to be doing too much against Tapu Lele, since Energy Drive does more damage for the amount of energy on its, Zoroark Break typically does not damage Tapu Lele that much with its Foul Play attack copying Energy Drive. That's something that we do see quite a bit, though, because usually with this format, you get into these grindy situations where you're just trying to figure out, okay, how do I map out my 6 prizes? How do I skip ahead, right? And we can see Pablo retreating into his Decidueye GX. He's going to use Decidueye GX's Hollow Hunt GX. Hollow Hunt GX is extremely powerful because it allows him for just 1 grass energy to get 3 cards back from the discard pile and put them into his hand. So we can be pretty confident that he's going to go get himself those double colorless energies back from the discard pile that I removed with Righteous Edge. And at this point, my Berserk attack is not even dealing that much damage because of the fact that Pablo has not placed any damage counters on my benched Pokemon. Now I can use Zoroarks at this point to stand in and attack with Mind Jack. I think that would be pretty optimal since I'm able to put a non-GX Pokemon in the active position, just slow down the pace of this game. I also do have Lysanders in my hand, so I could bring up any of Pablo's benched Pokemon and knock them out. I'm considering the double colorless on Drampa just because it's got more hit points and 90 damage from the Decidueye plus 2 feather arrows would put me at, I guess, put me at 90 plus 40, 130. So I would be 10 short of a knockout, but I think I correctly decide here to just go in with Zoroark, Break, and try to slow down the pace of this game. I need to get Drampa out of harm's way and kind of save it here on the bench. Going in with Zoroark, Break is good for me because it's got 140 hit points and is going to be a pain for Pablo to take out. And as we can see, Pablo's going to start trying to work on his own board position here. With us both being under item lock, he is able to kind of slow down the pace of this game. And he's going to start sky returning his own Shaymins. And that's good for a number of reasons. Not only because it decreases the damage output of my Mind Jack, but it also just clears that liability off of his own board. So a very heads up play there. He does feed me the other Shaymin EX though, which is a really tough feed because that's 2 prizes for me. So I can just take this Shaymin EX out with Zoroark Break, who is still dealing a lot of damage, 130 damage for just a double colorless. And I have a very nice hand here with Lysanders, Sycamores. I don't want to play the Professor Sycamore, discard my hand, draw 7. Not at all. I mean, my hand has got energy in it. At this point, I'm like, okay, if I can just keep manually attaching energy all over my board, I can kind of keep the tempo of this pace. And we can see both me and Pablo are playing decks where we manually attach our energy from hand. So each energy drop, you could see I'm kind of dwelling over these energy drops. Where do I want my energy to go? There are only 4 double colorless energy in the deck, and I really want to save those for Mind Jacks, right? Because Mind Jack is just a 1 energy attack. It can take big knockouts here. As we're going to see, I take a knockout on a Shaymin EX for 2 prizes for just 1 energy. And because I'm going to be under item lock, I'm not going to be able to play that special charge that I just drew off of the prizes. So I'm kind of hyper aware of that. And I'm just trying to figure out, okay, if I put the second dark energy on my Drampa GX, maybe I can go and berserk something with just a 3rd darkness energy attached. But then I want to keep my double colorless energy at the ready so that I can always just kind of swoop in and use a double colorless on Zoroark with Mind Jack. So I do get end here, a little bit of a sketchy end. Getting end to 3 under item lock is really tough. But I do find a Tapu Lele GX, which is wonderful. The deck plays 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX. So we're going to be able to Wonder Tag out of this hand. And we also see Turtonator showing up to play. I've got that Turtonator GX in this deck list. I caught a lot of flack for the Turtonator GX, all right? Had a lot of haters on Turtonator. Turtonator GX, awesome card. It's got this attack Shell Trap, which does 20 damage for 2 colorless energy. So it's double colorless energy compatible. And it deals 8 damage counters to the attacking Pokemon if Turtonator GX gets damaged after a Shell Trap. What's really cool is since I play 4 copies of Choice Band in this list, Turtonator's Shell Trap can hit a Decidueye for base 100 damage because 20 plus the 30 from the Choice Band, base 50 damage times 2 for weakness, 100 damage Shell Trap to a Decidueye is crushing. And as we will see later on, if I use Professor Kukui in order to boost that Turtonator's damage output, it does base 70 damage with Shell Trap to a Decidueye, which is weak. That means you could 2-hit KO Decidueye using Turtonator GX and Shell Trap, and it's got 190 hit points. Even though Turtonator GX is a hefty retreat cost of 3, it's okay because, of course, we've got Zoroarks with stand-in. So I find some great cards here off of that Sycamore. I find the Darkness Energy. I can use Berserk for 150 damage, setting up that Decidueye GX for a 2-hit KO. And we see Pablo trying to whittle down at my Zoroark here on the bench. But as you can see, I am just drawing very well under item lock. It's making almost no difference. And I find a second Tapu Lele GX absolutely wonderful here off of the N. But Pablo's going to go down to just 1 prize remaining. So I'm definitely in a tough spot. I'm going to promote the Turtonator GX or the Tapu Lele, one of the 2. and I have to try and clean up those GXs on Pablo's bench. So it's really rough for me because under item lock, I mean, I can't use Shaman, things like that. Am I really gonna have to soften up this third GX? I only have 3 prizes remaining, but it feels like victory is so far at this point, and I know that since I don't find a Zoroark break, Pablo can just use Decidueye's Feather Arrow twice on my bench Zoroark and just take the knockout. So I concede and I say, all right, I'll go first this next game. And I think I learn a lot during that first game there. I learn a lot about the Hex Maniac strategy. I really gave Pablo a lot of momentum during those Hex Maniac turns, and they didn't buff out for me at all. So I decide, all right, in game 2, I need to be a lot more aggressive and try to take prizes much more quickly so I don't get caught off guard like that again. So Pablo starts Lugia EX on the first turn of game 2. I start Drampa again, and I've got a pretty good hand. I don't like having to Sycamore away all of that, but I do find a Zorua and a Versus Seeker and a double colorless, so I'm pretty confident about that, and I am thinking that, okay, you know, at least I'm stable. I can Berserk turn 2, and it looks like I might decide to get the Lysander back, and I think that's fine. I'm very aware that I need Lysanders desperately in order to win this game, because as we saw last game, Pablo was able to retreat his damaged Decidueyes, and then I never had access to them because under item lock, I only have 2 actual copies of Lysander in the deck. So instead of saving the Sycamore, I decided to save the Lysander instead. I've already got Tapu Lele GX in my hand, and I can use Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag in order to go get myself a draw supporter and keep that Lysander safe in the deck. So I do really like that. And then, of course, there's always Big Wheel GX as well. Now, Lugia AX is a really cool card, just a vanilla attacker that has Deep Hurricane. So it's got this arrow ball attack, which is pretty similar to Tapu Lele GX's Energy Drive. But for 2 double colorless energy, just 4 colorless, you could Deep Hurricane, which can deal some really magic numbers. It can deal 170 damage. Which is perfect math to knock out Tapu Lele GXs, and as we can see, other Lugia EXs. Also, Deep Hurricane dealing 170 damage is really good in combination with Feather Arrow, because if you Feather Arrow, you can kind of fix the math, knock out 180 hit point Pokemon and stuff like that. So again, Pablo has another pretty underwhelming turn 1, so I'm very thankful for that. We get end into a decent hand here with another Drampa down, and I think at this point I have not played this format in literally 3 years, so I am still very much kind of figuring out, you know, what is my game plan, what do I do. I think at this point in the match I am still not exactly sure how Berserk works, which is hilarious because now I'm like 4 rounds deep in the tournament. And at this point in the match, though, I'm like, yeah, Berserk does more damage if Drampa is damaged. So, like, I'm under the impression, I think, that so long as Drampa is damaged, Berserk does more damage. But I will soon find out that Drampa actually only does bonus damage if the benched Pokemon is damaged. So it's like, you know how you don't play with the card for 3 years, things can get a little bit fuzzy. But I think, you know, off of this supporter, I can actually knock out this Lugia EX if I find myself a Team Magma base and a Pokemon. But instead of going for the aggressive draw here, I think I'm just going to Lysander and take out the Rowlet with the Grass Energy. And I really like this play because that just kind of slows his momentum down if I go for that. Alternatively, I could go for a draw card and maybe just play an end. So I might just end up doing that. I think I'm kind of just like thinking through the turn. Do I want to end Pablo, or do I want to try and take out his Rowlet with the energy and maybe just get that momentum swing there? I'm still thinking through. I'm still not sure if I'm going to end up using Sycamore or Lysander. Taking out the Rowlet feels good, but as I've seen also, it doesn't always end up working out. If I end up losing this Lysander and then can't get it back, that's going to be pretty bad for me. But I will just drop the other Drampa, and I like this play. Knocking out the Rowlet. We make it so that he cannot use his his Decidueye GX's Razor Leaf attack for 90 damage next turn. And we really kind of take control of the momentum of the match. And leading Drampa is pretty intimidating for Pablo's deck, because if he damages any of my bench Pokemon, then then I'm able to Berserk for 180 damage, especially since that Drampa does have a choice band on it. Now we see here Pablo has a horrible hand, so I'm just going to go ahead and use Professor Sycamore. I'm not even going to bother damaging my own Pokemon with the Magma Base, and again, I'm trying to avoid the Magma Base because of the fact that, it kind of helps Pablo out in a way. But I could have done it to damage my own Zorua and then given myself 180 damage Berserk. It doesn't really matter at this point. I think I'm just going to load up the second Drampa here, because if I get that double colorless on the Drampa, that's just very intimidating for Pablo to have to deal with. The fact that I have 2 Drampas ready to go. And we could just see how much Drampa can just take charge in this format, just using Berserk after Berserk. And once those energies are down and kind of locked in, they just stay there. There was not a lot of Enhanced Hammer, Crushing Hammer, stuff like that being played in this format. Not a lot of energy denial. The decks that really liked energy denial, more or less Greninja Break, and Greninja Break was already just a horrible matchup for this deck. I was losing to Greninja Break no matter what. So there's not a lot of that, especially with Decidueye Vileplume being a top deck. You can't really play a lot of energy denial cards against that. So a lot of times the energy, it just sticks. It doesn't get removed. You don't have to worry about it getting bumped or anything like that. Now, Pablo is able to draw into a decent hand here. So he is moving with his Lugia EX. He's got 2 Decidueyes out now. He's going to be using Feather Arrow. And we see he's going to pile all of this energy onto the active Drampa. And he's being careful not to snipe damage to my bench Pokemon. And I think it's this point right here where I honestly think I'm about to take a knockout with this Drampa GX on this Lugia EX, because I'm like, oh yeah, Drampa's got damage on it, we're good to go, no problem whatsoever. I haven't read Berserk yet. This is round 1, my first time playing this format in like 3 years, and I'm like, oh yeah, Drampa's taking a knockout, easy dubs. But I will find out that is not the way that it works here momentarily. So I'm looking through the deck. Oricorio is really cool. This is a tech card for the Vespiquen matchup, but I decided to just ditch it here because I'm like, I'm probably not going to end up using it in this game. Just trying to thin my deck before a big Professor Sycamore. Now, interestingly, I could attach the double colorless to my bench Drampa, and then I could stand in and take the knockout since my active Drampa is now damaged. So I think I am under the impression that I'm going to Berserk for knockout, and I just don't. I decided to put the double colorless onto my Zoroark, and I am genuinely surprised. So here I go. I read, and I'm like, oh no. I instantly click the Drampa, and I'm like, what just happened? Why did I not take a knockout? And now I put myself in critical danger with that play, because now Pablo is able to Feather Arrow, take that bonus knockout, and really swing the momentum back in his favor. So I am really upset with myself for not taking closer care to read that Drampa GX and make sure that I was, I figured it out. I was kind of confident. I was like, yeah, I top 8'd Nats with this. This is totally fine. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's the little nuance, Andrew. You got to read a little bit closer. So here's where we are. Tight series ahead. I mean, this is really, really close here. Pablo's got a heavily damaged Lugia EX, and then I only need to take 2 more prize cards. So despite my my lackluster route there, Pablo is able to spring up the Vileplume. I still have a route in this game because Pablo cannot actually do anything to the Oranguru unless he wanted to Deep Hurricane it. Instead, he decides to attach to the Decidueye, putting an extra energy onto this Lugia, which is about to get KO'd guaranteed. Feels really bad. And at this point, Pablo is going to start damaging my bench Pokemon. So Drampa's Berserk attack will be fully powered up and ready to go. And I have knockout on Lugia easily with one of my bench Zoroarks. I am a little bit going to consider whether or not I want to bench these Zoruas here and maybe evolve up into another one. I think, I'm still pretty confident. Like, Pablo's got 4 prizes to go. He's really far behind in this match. Zoroark stand in perfect. The Rangaroo can eat that damage, and we're going to take a big knockout. Now all I need is Lysander, and I should be able to square up the game with my benched Zoroark. He's got a choice band on it. He's going to be dealing enough damage to knock out that Shaman EX on Pablo's bench. So I'm still feeling pretty confident just because we were able to get out there aggressively, and Pablo had that one turn where he was not drawing super optimally there and had to pass without doing much. So that momentum is really carrying me here. Pablo does have that Vileplume out, so this Versus Seeker is not going to get me the game-winning Lysander, and I'm really bummed about that. But fortunately, I do have this Oranguru on my bench with its Instructability, and I've got a Zoroark in my hand so that I can evolve up that Zorua that I benched. With Feather Arrow, that Decidueye GX is able to take a perfect knockout on my Zoroark, and we get the Shaman. So a little bit of a high-risk play, but I'm going for it. I'm like, okay, we'll Instruct first, and then if I find that Lysander, I win the game. An unplayable card, unfortunately, but I have to take my shot here. Go for setup, draw 4 cards, and I don't find it. Got a Team Magma Base and a Professor Kukui, and I'm like, okay, we're very close to winning the game, but I'm not quite there. With my bench full, I can play this Team Magma Base, and that's fine. And I think I decided to just go up with Zoroark and swing into this Decidueye. Professor Kukui is going to get me a few more cards drawn, boost my damage output, and I've got an energy. So I can Berserk if I want to, or I can Mind Jack for huge numbers. Either of them are going to be setting this Decidueye GX up for a game-winning KO. I don't have the game-winning Lysander in my hand, and I have no way to get it, so I am a little bit heartbroken at that. And with that Shaman EX on my bench, now Pablo could just knock out that Shaman EX for game. I think I decide correctly to just go in with the Drampa here. I think going in with the Drampa is good because we could actually see a situation where if I go up with a Zoroark, then all Pablo has to do is knock out the Zoroark and knock out the Shaman EX for game. And we see Pablo just doesn't have it, so he's going to scoop it up. I was really nervous here, and I felt like Pablo's hand must have been really bad to have scooped at that point because I didn't have game in my hand. So he might have been under the impression that I either had game or had no energy in his hand. With no clear outs. But with that wind in my sails now, I am very excited going into game 3, and I feel like I have a clearer idea of what I need to do to take this set. Now, Pablo's going first in the game 3 of our set here. I start with a Rangaroo. As you can see, I am playing the Hidden Fates one. Oh yeah, dude, the nice Rangaroo. Wasn't legal at the time of 2017, didn't exist yet, but for this old format tournament, we get to play the nice shiny Rangaroo. I was nervous about this hand. This hand was absolute garbage here. 3 Darkness Energy, a Versus Seeker, an awkward Ultra Ball. Like, yeah, I could have Ultra Balled for a Lele out of that hand, but I'd much rather have a hand that looks like this. Now, you can see I got Floatstone, I got Tapu Lele, I can use Wonder Tag, I can get myself out of this hand. The Floatstone, I could put it onto the Oranguru and maybe get myself a turn 1 Big Wheel GX. That's something I'm thinking about. I also, I see this play here. I'm like, okay, if I put the Floatstone onto the Oranguru, I can knock out his Rowlet turn 1 with my Tapu Lele GX. If I find a double colorless off of this supporter for turn, we're getting a supporter with Wonder Tag. If I find a double colorless off of this N, I can knock out the Rowlet turn 1. And that's going to be huge for my momentum because not only am I taking that energy attachment away from Pablo, I'm punishing him for trying to skip ahead on energy here. And I'm also skipping ahead in the prize trade. So I decide to go for it. By putting the Floatstone on the Oranguru, I'm giving myself a chance to draw into that. I'm also going to get a Drampa. So I have 2 options here off of the N. And I'm much happier with my gameplay here in game 3. I feel like I've really, you know, having not played this format in 3 years, game 3, I'm really starting to kind of figure things out. Now I've got the Drampa GX, I've got the Tapu Lele. If I find either energy off of the N, I can either go in for a big wheel turn 2 or turn 1 big wheel, or I can go in with the Tapu Lele GX. We see I ripped the double colorless, so I know I'm going in with Tapu Lele GX. I'm going to take this knockout with Energy Drive, and that's going to leave Pablo with just an Oddish in play. I make sure to play down as much of my cards in hand as I can, and I decide still to hold on to the Team Magma base. I don't want to give Pablo any sort of free damage counters or anything like that, so I'm just going to hold it. If he ends up playing a Forest of Giant Plants, I can use the Team Magma base to counter Pablo's Stadium, maybe try to slow him down a little bit. Now, the rest of this hand is not great. I do have Zoroark to evolve up my Zorua. I only get one Zorua down turn 1, but you'll notice who's here. We got Big Daddy Turtonator GX with a choice band. So I decide to put the choice band on Turtonator GX. I'm not putting the choice band on Drampa. I'm not putting the choice band on Tapu Lele. And I'm not putting the choice band on the Zorua. I put it on Turtonator GX. And I'm saying, okay, we're going to go and we're going to Shell Trap for 100. Now, Pablo has not gotten to see what Turtonator can cook up in this matchup yet. So we're putting some of our chips on Turtonator GX and seeing maybe Turtonator can get us that magic win scenario that we need here in game 3. Maybe Turtonator GX has got that game 3 magic. Now we get end, and that's one of the most beautiful things about this format is even when you're dead drawing, even if you've got a lackluster hand, a lot of times your opponent will just play that N for you so that you get your hand refreshed. So I get a hand refresh to 5, and this hand is way better than the hand I was rocking with previously. We see Pablo is actually able to draw pretty well off of this next supporter. He was left with just an Oddish this past turn, and his board is really glowed up since then. Now he's got a Decidueye GX in play. He's got a Vileplume in play with a Floatstone. I am item locked now, and he's enemy to 5 cards. However, this deck is constructed in a way it's very supporter heavy. So you're going to notice off of a lot of these supporters, I'm drawing the cards that I need in order to continue playing the game even under item lock. So I'm trying to decide here, where does my energy go? I decided to put the Darkness Energy onto Drampa and just end. That way I'm hoping that Pablo gets end out of the double colorless energy, and I'm just going to energy drive this thing. Now, if I had taken a little bit of a riskier play, say I had just not attached the energy and end myself to 5, I would have gotten the knockout on that Shaman EX with this Zoroark here. But I decided I'm going to go for a more conservative play. I'm just going to attach the energy to Drampa, and with the N, I'm just hoping to get Pablo out of the double colorless energy. I did not succeed, but it's okay. I know at the most Pablo is only going to be sky returning my Tapu Lele GX for another 30 damage. However, that Decidueye damage is really starting to pile up on my benched Zoroark. You can see it is now just 2 feather arrows away from getting KO'd. So Pablo is going to try to go in with the Shaman again. I'm not going to let that happen. I've had enough of the Shaman EX Sky Returns, and it's definitely time to punish Pablo with our Zoroark. So Zoroark's going to come stand in. We've got the double colorless, and we need to take our 2 prizes. So I'm going to go up 3 prizes to 0 here. However, I do know that Pablo already has knockout on this Zoroark built up. But since Pablo doesn't have any energy stuck, this is the one negative thing about using Sky Returns back-to-back turns, is that Pablo doesn't actually have any energy on board, and he doesn't have an attacker that can do anything to Oranguru. So I kind of learned this from our game last time, and he's under his own item lock. So I know that he can't field blower my Oranguru. So this Oranguru is going to safely take a hit. Whatever Pablo decides to do here, this Oranguru is not going anywhere, and he's kind of done the most that he can do this turn. So I suspect that he's going to go in and Hollow Hunt GX, since he can't really put any pressure onto my Oranguru. And funny enough, he actually uses Lysander and brings up my Turtonator GX. And you can see I've got the double colorless in hand. I've got the Professor Kukui in hand. He goes for 2 Ns and a Lysander back. I am ready to go. I've prepared myself for this moment. Shell Trap. Yup. Guess what? You don't have a way to retreat this Decidueye GX, and I just Shell Trapped you for 140 damage. Now he's in a situation where he either has to try and Lysander around this Turtonator, or he has to end me, but he can't really escape what the Turtonator is about to do, because Turtonator just hit him for 140 damage. He gusted up this Turtonator, and he had no idea Turtonator was about to Shell Trap for 140 damage. So that is just really cathartic there. You gotta be like, why did I bring the Turtonator into the active position? And he just decides to pass, and I am just really gonna ride this wave here. I'm putting the double colorless onto the Drampa. Now my board position is absolutely stellar. I'm only gonna have 1 more prize left to take. So I decide to research into the bottom of my deck And all I'm looking for is my final Lysander. All I need is a Lysander for game. So I'm trying to find that. I don't find the Lysander, but I decided to just play that Professor Sycamore there. I think I called it research. I'm going to play that Professor Sycamore, dig into the bottom of my deck. I decided to put this Oricorio down because Oricorio could actually be useful because of the fact that it's Supernatural Dance. Is it Supernatural Dance? Because of its, yes, I think it's Supernatural Dance attack. It allows me to do damage based on the amount of Pokemon that Pablo has in the discard pile. And since he has item lockup, you can't actually get any of those Pokemon out of the discard pile. At this point, I've got 1 prize remaining to Pablo's 5. And if he decides to end me, I do have Instructor Rangaroo. And you can see I've got the Lysander that I need in order to bring up his Vileplume for game. So he has to play end here. He's going to end me to 1. But I'm feeling pretty good because I do have that Instruct Rangaroo with a Floatstone on it. He's going to decide to bring up my Drampa, and Deep Hurricane deals 150 damage, putting the Drampa GX at 170 damage. Deep Hurricane, I thought it dealt 170. It does 150. Yes, so he does 150, and then with the Feather Arrow, very easy to turn that 150 into 170. That's what I was remembering about Deep Hurricane. By attaching this Darkness energy to my Oricorio on the bench, I'm about to Berserk this Lugia EX for 150 damage. By putting the Dark energy onto the Oricorio, I'm making it so that I can Supernatural Dance and clean up the Lugia no matter where it goes. And then Pablo's going to see that, and he is going to scoop because I'm about to Berserk for 150 damage. He knows he has more than 2 Pokemon in his discard pile, and there's no way he can get those Pokemon out of his discard pile. So Oricorio creating that checkmate scenario, and Pablo just sees the writing on the wall, decides to scoop it up. And here is the list that I am piloting in the PokeStats 2017 Retro Format Tournament. If it looks familiar, it's because it's the same list that I played to the top 8 finish at the 2017 North American International Championships. I love this list. It's heavily inspired by Danny Altavila's special event winning Drampa Zoroark deck, and it takes a lot of information, and it takes a lot of kind of points from that list. However, it's got some key differences. We do have the Turtonator GX in there. We saw Shell Trapped for those 2 prizes on the Decidueye GX. Shell Trap for 140 damage with a Kukui and a Choice Band. Absolutely bonkers. My list also plays 4 copies of Choice Band, and the 4 copies of Choice Band is something I would definitely not ever walk back. The 4 copies of Choice Band really helps. I mean, a lot of players are not expecting the 4th Choice Band drop, and Choice Band really helps to fix your math with Zoroark and Drampa. Drampa always wants Choice Band. Zoroark always wants Choice Band. And Turtonator always wants Choice Band. They all always want Choice Band. Even Oricorio, if you're playing against Espeon Garb and you want to use Revelation Dance, it wants a Choice Band as well. You could hit it Espeon for 120 damage with your Revelation Dance if you have a Choice Band on. So Choice Band literally goes good on all of your attackers and is a really big deal in this deck. So I love playing 4 copies of it. We also have 1 copy of Rainbow Energy in the deck, which can be useful for damaging your bench Pokemon to help power up Drampa GX's Berserk attack, but it also is good because you can use your 1 copy of Special Charge to put the Rainbow Energy back into the deck. Other than that, the deck is very straightforward and consistent. I love the 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher in the deck as well because it just allows you to really chain your Zoroarks back to back to back. Even though we only play 2 copies of Zoroark Break, we can get more into play with the heavy Rescue Stretcher counts that we play. If someone takes quick knockouts on Zorua, the 2 Rescue Stretcher means that we, more often than not, to get to just pick a Zorua up out of the discard pile, put it back onto the bench, and it really helps keep the momentum going with this deck. And I love this deck because it is consistent, it's straightforward, it's aggressive. As we saw in that first set against Pablo, we were able to just do a lot of damage quickly, set up our board position, and it worked out for us. So we were thankful to get away from that matchup unscathed. That is a tough matchup for Drampa GX Zoroark. Shout out again to Pablo Meza, aka Tablemon. Make sure to check out his YouTube channel if you have not already. Also, make sure to check out PokeStats Discord if you're interested in retro format tournaments. This tournament did have a small entry fee and it's going to have prize payout to the top 8 finishers. So there is going to be a cash payout for them, and it's a lot of fun. I have to say the community there is super dope. So definitely make sure to check out the PokeStats Discord. I'll drop that in the description below as well. I'm going to have round 2 posted soon, so hopefully you guys are enjoying this retro Pokemon trading card game content. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that bell, and if you're looking for instant PTCGO code delivery, make sure to check out fullgripcodes.com. Supporting the shop directly supports the content that I create here on Tricky Jim. If you're looking for singles, make sure to check out fullgripgames.com. Thank you all so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.